sign on to a TikTok, and I got a notification saying that this particular TikTok host had violated community standards. So I'm wondering if that's what's going on with me because of a lack of following on TikTok. Although, look, I've got 25,000 followers on TikTok, so I'm not complaining. And people, these are real followers in that people are interacting with me and sending notes in and responding when I do. So, even if I am being shadow banned, and even if they are saying that this subscriber has had videos taken down, nevertheless, the thing moves forward, and I'm very gratified by that. I'm doing the live program Monday through Friday, 12 noon. And I've got interesting guests scheduled throughout the week. Today, I'm doing an open lines type program. And in that capacity, I would like to give out the phone number because I can take calls here at 617-396-4958. Thank you very much. By the way, TikTok, yes, I am back live on TikTok. 617-396-4958. If you call in, you will be heard live here on this program, Monday through Friday, 12 noon to 1 around Eastern Standard Time. Earlier today, I did a TikTok that is still up and running. It's kind of difficult to navigate here, and I'm obviously moving forward or trudging forward in uncharted waters in terms of what is permitted and what isn't, what is allowed and what is not. And, so I mean, I'm not against, and in fact, I'm used to centering myself as a fairly experienced radio talk show host who has worked in smaller markets in Greater Boston off and on for the past 20 years. I understand what it is to observe community standards. You go into a building and you do a show and you've got the owner there sometimes, and you've got people looking you in the eye, staff and salespeople and board ops. You kind of feel a sense of responsibility to observe community standards, to operate within the context of what's appropriate for that community. And I do that, and I think I've done a fairly good job of that. Not always perfectly. I've had some troubles, but for the most part, I'm able to do that. But it's a whole different game now, and I think it has been as such. Maybe in the last year of the Trump administration, when there was a major crackdown, quite frankly, on conservative opinion. And I'm not saying this just because I think it. I've been told this by a number of people who do know from the inside how this happens and who have documented it. I don't even think it's something that would be denied. The crackdown intensified, of course, when President Trump himself was censored from Twitter and Facebook. And that's a censorship that remains. And so I'm not able to do the program that I envisioned or that I frankly had done before. And I've gotten a couple of strikes on YouTube, but what's more interesting to me is that I've noticed from looking at my YouTube archive that several programs have just vanished. They're just gone, like they never were there. And I also, for a period when I was blogging a lot, I wrote almost 2,000 blogs. I would say about 1,600 blogs over many years. And that whole thing was taken down by Google. And I mean, I can still see it, but it's not allowed online. And again, I mean, I feel like I'm a fairly responsible person. I mean, I don't truck in, conspiracy theories that would be in any way bringing in people of various ethnic or religious backgrounds. I'm against that, and I can prove that those are false. In fact, they go against the very definition of conspiracy. But I do look at conspiracy against the social order and in politics. I think that's part of our responsibility as citizens to always look at that. That's why we have free speech. That's why we have a free press. The founding fathers recognized that as a right that needed to be codified in writing when they put that in the Bill of Rights, that we would have to have the ability as a way to check and balance corruption to investigate political conspiracy as well as criminal conspiracy. It's kind of a given. Conspiracy theory, then being called a conspiracy theory person, however, has become a bad word. And I think that from what I understand, that emanated out of those who questioned the Warren Commission report that was supposedly the single definitive answer on why President John F. Kennedy was assassinated in November of 1963. That anyone who questioned that report, starting with Mark Lane, who was a very good reporter, was a, quote, conspiracy theorist, and that this was a label that was deliberately concocted by the very people that created that report, including a CIA figure by the name of Alan Dulles, who was part of that committee. And so, now you are being denounced for engaging in conspiracy theory. All right, I want to just mention one quick thing here, and this is with all due respect to him, because I've been talking about conversations I've had recently with a very liberal friend. Bill Maher had Ben Shapiro on the other day, and I'm following him. And Ben Shapiro, I thought, did a very good job, by the way, of describing what critical race theory is. He pointed out, for example, that the critical race theorists have a negative view of the Brown versus Board of Education decision by the Supreme Court, 1954, that led to an end to legal segregation of our public school system based on race. And that we believe, and most Americans believe, I certainly believe, that that was a positive development. You cannot have a government using force to enforce segregation of people based on race, in the public sphere, like as in public schools or in public accommodations. And yet the critical race theorists believed that it was bad because what it did was it reinforced white supremacy and a system of white supremacy. And what that tells me, and I think that Ben Shapiro did a good job of illustrating this, was that they're not interested in reducing the racial barriers that have existed in this country, legal barriers. They're more interested in changing our entire system, which is our capitalist system. That somehow this opened the door for African Americans to enter into the middle class and the wealthy class and become, take their position in terms of realizing the benefits and the blessings of the American dream. And that for the critical race theorists is bad because capitalism is white supremacy. And even, you could even take it a step further and point out that success and accomplishment is a form of what they call white supremacy because it's capitalist. So, to think about how horrible that is as a message for African Americans trying to achieve something. And this same conversation, we talked a little bit about my guest last week, Kenny Sue, who has written about his position as an Asian American and how the society continues to discriminate against Asian Americans, particularly in higher education, and he mentioned particularly Harvard. And this friend said, well, Asians are an oppressor race. I'm like, what do you mean an oppressor race? Who in the world, first of all, that's a racist comment, but putting that aside, who are the Asians oppressing? And her answer was, well, they are racist in Asia. And I respond to that by saying, first of all, I wouldn't describe it as racist. I would describe it as communist. I mean, hey, how you doing? All right. Live ends when I stop talking. When I start talking, what do you mean? Then don't talk because I'm trying to do this thing and I'm trying to do it live. I'm getting a TikTok follower here. I'm live on YouTube and a bunch of other stations. So anyway, listen, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Joey. Take care. All right. Anyway, the contention being that the absurdity of suggesting that Asian Americans are somehow an oppressive race is apparently a big deal amongst critical race theory. Hey, how are you?
Hello, Charles. How are you?
I'm well, thanks. Welcome to the show. We're live on the YouTube, TikTok, and about 8 other streams. What's on your mind?
I was just wondering, randomly selected somebody to go see what their live is, and what's you're interested in.
Thank you. I'm glad to be back live on TikTok because I had been banned as usual. I don't know. It said something that PO'd the TikTok gods, but what are you up to? What are you thinking about these days?
I'm in California in the mountains.
Great.
And we have a lot of forest fires going on, and it's really smoky where I live. And I was just a little bit concerned about the day and the age and what's going down.
Is the forest threatening your property at this point? Are you okay?
No, I'm further away from where the fires are. The smoke is really bad here, but a few years back here where I live, it's really a heavily wooded area, and if there was a fire, it would just wipe out, man.
Now, is this do you think this is due to global warming or is it due to poor forest management?
I do not believe that it's in global warming because things like this has been happening for thousands and thousands of years.
Right.
Forest fires, any type of natural disaster has been affecting this whole world since the dawn,
Well, I know. I read recently that Germany has a lot of forests, but they have very few forest fires because they manage their forests very well. They groom them like you would groom any crop. So I don't know if that.
Look at this. Look at this.
Yeah.
Like this ground cover.
Uh-huh.
Like if they were to say like rake the forest floor like they say, I think it would help.
Okay. Do you think that Gavin Newsom is going to be recalled, or what do you think is going on with that?
Well, my property I keep bare dirt. I try to keep it all, but then my neighboring property is just the ground is just it would just go,
Well, I hope that you're well prepared if anything, God forbid, happens. I see you have a stream there. Maybe that'll help. You can keep the area well watered.
Yeah, this is the drinking water for the town that's below me. It's open ditch drinking water, and there's big tanks that store the water. And then the town of Sonora, which is below me, I'm up above by Twain Harte, California. We're near Yosemite.
Okay.
But this aqueduct has been ongoing aqueduct since the 1849s with the gold rush.
Wow.
This water would supply all the mining operations.
Have you tried to pan for any gold?
Oh yeah, it's all over.
Really? Wow.
Yep.
Gee, we're going to cause another gold rush here, and I'm not careful.
Yeah.
Gold.
Come on.
Gold in them our hills.
Yep.
Excellent.
Hey,
all right.
I'm gonna get off your live.
Thank you. All right.
You.
Same here. Nice hearing from you.
Have a great day.
Thank you. Okay. So anyway, getting back the issue of the idea of Asians as being like an oppressor race in America. That's sheer, pure critical race theory, and it's wrong. Asians came to this country under the same conditions as any other immigrant group. I think that maybe their attack, and I mentioned this to Kenny as well, is because, quite frankly, they tend to be a little bit right of center, conservative. They've got basic moral values that conservatives have, family values. They value the family. They value education. They value success. They're entrepreneurial. They want to get in business. In other words, they want to do everything the left despises. They don't want to be dependent on the state. They're sovereign individuals. And the extra addition, of course, I think, particularly with regard to Chinese Americans and Chinese immigrants, is that they understand firsthand what communism is, and they're anti-communist. So I think that critical race theory, like any other communist theory, is very arbitrary in terms of whom they select and whom they target as enemies. And it has a lot to do with where you stand vis-a-vis communism and vis-a-vis the growth of collectivism and their bizarre utopian visions of a world ant colony. You know, if you are an individual who believes that rights come from the creator and not from the state, and that you stand as an independent person, standing for yourself, self-interest, your family, and your community before anything else, and that you have a basic distrust of power and government, which is the American way, going back to Thomas Paine's common sense, then you are deemed by the critical race theorists who are communists as a, quote, oppressor race, unquote. Okay, 617-396-4958. What is on your mind this afternoon? 617-396-4958. Think the cyber symposium will blow the doors open? Yes, I do. I'm a little nervous to talk about this because, again, this is YouTube, but Mike Lindell of Frank Speech TV is having a cyber symposium starting August 9th, 10th, and 11th. He's doing it live in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and he's streaming it live on Frank TV, and which he is going to claim. And again, I want the senses to understand that this has been reported by CNN. So if you're going to knock me off the air, you know, I'm operating here within the context of what the Nazis who are running this country right now allow. All right, I'm sorry to be a little angry, but because it's frustrating. But my understanding is that his thesis is that our election had been hacked by the communist Chinese. That's his thesis. Now, whether he comes up with the goods, we'll see. I don't know. I think he probably will. But, you know, what I do say about Mike Lindell is that he's an extremely admirable man. We're talking here about a self-made multimillionaire who, former crackhead in Minnesota, who has created this incredible company, hiring Americans, and he has put everything on the line, everything, by going with this thesis, which, by the way, was originally patented by his Minnesota Senator, Amy Klobuchar, liberal Democrat, candidate for president during the Democratic primaries, who spent a lot of time in Congress talking about the threat that communist China posed in terms of hacking of our electoral system and of our election machines. And I will also just mention, and again, I'm hoping I don't get censored for this, but you have to watch Stephen K. Bannon's podcast on Apple, The War Room Pandemic. His crack reporter and sidekick, Raheem Kassam, has uncovered fantastic video of appearances on NPR by two representatives of Podesta's organization, the American Way, he calls it something like that. What is it? American Progress, peace, love, and apple pie, whatever he calls it. Podesta is one of the major people running. He was he was the head of the Hillary Clinton election campaign. He's kind of a linchpin of the entire Democratic Party left. He was implicated in a scandal. I'm not going to mention the name of it because I could definitely get taken down, but it has to do with a certain kind of food, right? It's generally associated as an Italian food, and they called it that name, Gate. I think people who are listening know what I'm talking about. I'm not going to comment further on that. But let's just say that his organization investigated the possibility that voting machines could be hacked. They discovered that they could be by an outside force, whether it be communist China or whether it be some criminals. They outlined how that would happen, and they pointed out that it could even happen if the machines were not online. And of course, there's major concerns that that many of them are. Lester Holt, of all people, on NBC, did a whole segment on that. And many of our liberal Congress people talked about this many, many years ago. You don't hear them talking about it now. I think we know why. But the point of the matter is that Mike Lindell is taking that information, along with some other things that he claims he's going to reveal, to show that the election machines indeed were hacked. And he says that they were hacked by the communist Chinese. And that very well may have affected, let's just say, the outcome. Again, I don't want to get specific here because I don't want to get taken down. I'm not saying it did. I don't know. I'm just some schmuck here in Boston. I'm sitting here. I have no inside information. But I'm simply noting that this is what Mike Lindell's presentation is going to be all about. I think it is worth that we check it out. He, again, has put his entire career, his profession on the line to make this case. The opposition, as anyone may imagine, is extremely fierce and vicious. These are people who'd like to have him, imprisoned. I mean, they want to bankrupt him. And in fact, his product, My Pillow, has been pulled from all of the major box stores. And I think that he's gone way out on a limb. He doesn't have to do it. He's not getting anything out of it. It's hurt him. So I admire that. I admire his courage. I admire the fact that he has stuck with his convictions. And I think that we need to hear him out and give him at least the benefit of the doubt. So that's my take on the Cyber Symposium that will be held by Mike Lindell, and which is available August 9th, 10th, and 11th, I think, on Frank TV, which is his social network. Okay, you're welcome to join the program. I'm getting TikToks from people of things I can't read because, again, this is YouTube. But you're welcome to join the program, 617-396-4958, 617-396-4958. Any update on the 1-6 rep prisoners? No, I don't have any update on that. I will just again reiterate that there are hundreds of people being held in prison right now somewhere in Washington, D.C., who had peacefully entered the U.S. Capitol on January 6th. It seems like if there were people who violently entered, then let them be charged, let them be prosecuted, let's hear the evidence, and let's have what we call in this country due process. Let's have they have habeas corpus rights. It's very strange to me that that hasn't happened, that they're simply being held without charges being brought, even 6 or 7 months after the event. And that, in fact, people are being picked up who were not involved in any kind of vandalism or violence. They were simply there to walk around. There was not major damage done. There were guys like the guy with the fuzzy hat, and the buffalo horns, the QAnon shaman. He didn't do anything violent. He just walked around, and if anything, he was trying to calm people down. He's still being held without charges. And it's my understanding, according to some of the attorneys, and these people haven't had access to attorneys, that there has been brutality. They've been in solitary confinement. There's been beatings. In one case, this guy allegedly has lost one eye. And they're political prisoners. I'm sorry, but that's exactly what they are. And it is really disgusting that this is happening in America today. I think that it emanates from anti-terrorism legislation that was first proposed in the 1990s after the Oklahoma City bombing of the Murrah building, when you had several Democratic in that case, representatives, led largely by Representative at the time, Charles Schumer, who proposed anti-terrorism legislation to deal with, quote, domestic terrorists. And this meant this would give the government extraordinary powers under the alleged threat of an insurrection, and that's the word they used back then, to hold people indefinitely, to hold people in a way they would not be able to face their accuser. They could be held in secret. They would have no rights. They couldn't see an attorney. They could be held in solitary, and they could be held, as I said, indefinitely. Those laws were not passed at that time because there was an outpouring of opposition from both the left and the right. They were publicized. I remember at that time I was doing talk radio. This was 1999, 1998. And I had on Congressman Barney Frank, who talked about this in support of it. He had sent out a press release supporting it. We have to do this because of this huge threat. And I argued with him on the air. In fact, eventually I ran against him for Congress. Is one of the reasons. And I think that what's happened is that legislation was eventually passed. I mean, it seems to me that that's the only explanation for why these people are being held. Maybe it was snuck into the USA Patriot Act after 9/11, 2001. But somehow along the way, it was probably signed into law. And that's why these people are being held like this, without charge. The Constitution has thus been suspended in their case. They are not allowed the conventional process of due process, and habeas corpus rights have been suspended. Abraham Lincoln suspended temporarily habeas corpus rights because of the emergency of the real insurrection at that time, which was the Civil War. And they were restored at the end of the war. And that was to deal with Copperheads, subversives in the North who were pro-South and who were sabotaging the opposition to the secession of the Southern states. That was a war, a real war to save the country, I would argue. Now, we can go back in history and debate that. I would suggest that Lincoln saved the Union, and he took some extraordinary and, by conventional definition, unconstitutional measures to do that. Well, that ain't happening now, and yet these laws are now in place, it seems to me. And that's why people are being held now, and we can't find out what's happening to them. And it is a human rights catastrophe. It is an atrocity against our Constitution and our way of life. I have no other way to describe that. Anyway, 617-396-4958. This is an open lines program. You can discuss, I guess, just about anything. I mean, if we go too far into something that is verboten, then I might have to take it off the air. But please feel free to call. I mean, we're operating in times of uncertainty with regard to what we're allowed to discuss. 617, so the number again, 617-396-4958. That number is 617-396-4958. Thank you. Keep up the good work. Come on, call in. It is unbelievable what's happening. 617-396-4958. So getting back to my conversation with my liberal friend about Ben Shapiro's appearance on Bill Maher. Okay. I'm asking, what are my thoughts about the internet shutdown on the 11th? I have heard about it. I don't know anything about it. I think that there's some evidence that maybe this is going to be, the next version of the Great Reset, I suppose you might say. They've tried pandemics with all of the shutdowns and the lockdowns and the mask, the covering of your face like a burqa. They've certainly in history have done things like holocausts and forced starvations and world wars and depressions, these being the internationalist world order movement, the satanic world order movement. Maybe this is the latest iteration. After all, socialism calls for the public control of the means of communication. And the primary means of communication, or mass communication today, is the internet. So it wouldn't surprise me at all if they try a little experiment and shut down the entire internet, which makes me wonder if some people might not be exempted from that in our two-tier system, which I'm going to get into. I want to get into a comment about that in a minute, but let me just finish my thoughts on Shapiro. My friend said to me, Shapiro doesn't talk about questioning the election of 2020, all right? And I noted that that is true. He doesn't. I also noted, and I'm not trying to single him out here. I think that you could say this about much of, if not most of, our media establishment, that they don't talk about it because they know that if they do, they're going to be taken down. Ben Shapiro is paid millions of dollars as a radio host. He's paid other millions of dollars he makes as an author. All of that would go down the drain if he decided to talk about or question the election of 2020. Okay, he'd lose it all. So no, he doesn't talk about it. Now, again, I'm not singling him out. I think everyone in the media knows goddamn well what happened on November 3rd, 2020. I'm not going to say it, so I know I could be censored even for suggesting that anything happened other than that we had an ordinary election. I will suffice to say, and I'm going to move on, that most people sense that there was something not quite kosher that occurred on that day, but no one wants to investigate it because the people that may have engaged in the activity that was less than kosher are the people who are controlling everything now, and they won't permit it. And that's in politics, it's in business, it's in the media, and it's in the culture. They have the high ground, and they are promoting an agenda right now that is destructive, but its main tenet is to preserve, is to preserve its power. And that means censoring anyone who questions what they do. I like Ben Shapiro. It's absolutely nothing against him at all. I think that he, if anything, he probably goes closer to the border of discussing these real issues than most other people, and he has more to lose. So I'm not bringing this up to criticize him. Now, sorry about that. I'm getting shaky here. All right, 617-396-4958 is the number. You're welcome to join the conversation. 617-396-4958. The TikTok that I did earlier, and I think it's still up, is speculative. And again, I want to try to tread carefully here. But it involves comments that were publicly made by what's called the white coat doctors in Washington. They've been banned from YouTube, so I don't want to go into too much of what they said. I just will note that these are legitimate doctors and medical personnel who work either in hospitals or who are in private practice and who work with COVID-19 patients and have been doing so throughout the pandemic. And what they reported in this press conference, which I believe was held on the steps of the US Capitol a couple of days ago, was that several of them have clients in government, as in Congress and in high levels of government, who they have prescribed the H drug to. And I'm not going to mention the name of that drug because I could be taken down for that. And the I drug as well. Anyone listening to this program knows what I'm talking about, okay? And that, in fact, last year, President Trump publicly stated that he had been prescribed this H drug along with azithromycin and zinc, and that he was taking it. And he made reference to the fact that a lot of people who are in government are also taking this drug. He didn't mention names, nor should he, because that's confidential. I mean, that's a relationship between a patient and their doctor. And at the time, the media erupted in rage that he would do this. They didn't really explain why this was bad, but just that we were supposed to believe that this was the most horrible thing. Like with everything else with Trump, every time he'd go to the bathroom, there'd be reporters, every little thing. He has an extra scoop of ice cream at a state dinner. It's front news and 3 networks. It's what Trump calls the fake news. Anything to take Trump out. And so we know that he was taking it. That's a matter of public record. And we know that he was taking it under prescription by his doctor and under supervision as a way to prevent the COVID-19 virus. We also know that this particular drug was approved by the FDA in the 1970s, and that since then, tens of millions of people all around the world have taken this drug for various ailments, and that it's basically safe. Otherwise, we would have heard about it. I'm not saying it's perfectly safe. No drug is. Nor am I here to subscribe anything. I'm just saying that it's in common usage, but it's not allowed for COVID. Well, these doctors were saying that they are subscribing it to people, and that I speculated on my TikTok that maybe this explains why you have this ongoing phenomena, and this is public, where you see Nancy Pelosi, where you see AOC Cortez, they're yucking it up with people without a mask. And then when they think the camera's on, they put the mask on. And then they take it off again when they think the camera's off, and they continue on their way. Are they putting it on for theater? Are they putting it on so the rest of us put it on? Because the rest of us are putting it on. I'm putting it on. We're terrified. And yet they don't seem concerned when the camera's off. They're just, having a fine old time. We also see footage coming out, even though most of it's been taken off the internet now, of the Obama party in Martha's Vineyard, 700 people there. No masks. There's footage of them just having a blast. There's no hint of a mask. They obviously are not concerned about COVID. They're all inside. Why not? All I'm going to just say, and I'm going to end this segment, is there a possibility, is there a juxtaposition logically, excuse me, between their apparent lack of concern over their own safety? They don't care about masks, obviously, and the possibility that they may be getting this prescription, which protects them. Is this something that the media might consider investigating? Or is it just going to be denounced? Am I going to disappear? I probably am. I mean, I'm here worried. I feel the show is going to be gone, okay? I mean, that's where the world we're living in right now. This is forbidden to talk about. And yet this is a legitimate issue. It's not only a political issue, it's a health issue. Hello, you're on the air. Thank you for joining me.
Hi, Charles. This is Joan.
Hi, how are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
I'm well, thanks. What's on your mind?
Well, I watched your video earlier and I was listening to your live, and I wanted to say that I think you're on to something about possible secret prescriptions, we'll just call it that, or secret access to certain drugs that maybe aren't available to the average person. And I wanted to tell you a little bit about my firsthand experience with that, if you wanted me to.
Please proceed carefully, but don't forget, we're on YouTube here. I don't know if I'll be on YouTube by the end of today, but go ahead. Be careful, though.
Okay. Well, I'll just tell you, I don't have a medical background, but I was a former college instructor, and I always look up, I do my own research.
Mhm.
But I do have a family that are in medical care, and we are in a rural state. My uncle came down with the illness and was able to get the prescription and survived. His wife unfortunately went to the ER, and she went straight into ICU and was not allowed to receive the medication and passed.
Mhm.
And we were seeing stories like this over and over. You know, I can't say if other people have access to it or not, but I do know that some of the doctors that were able to give certain things to people seemed to work really great, whether it was for prophylactic or whether it was for rescue, you know. But we were seeing really great, you know, I guess,
Mhm.
success with what you've been talking about. And the fear factor is, you know, kind of down when you start doing your research on those things. But the big question that I keep asking myself when I hear you talk about it is, why was it outlawed, or why is it suppressed to more people when it has been around for a long time, and it's fairly inexpensive, and it seems to be an alternative
Mhm.
to what we're doing. Anyway, I'll stop now, but I have been thinking right along with you and listening right along with you as you say these things, and those are the thoughts that go through my head. Like I said, in a rural state, seeing, you know, people with access and without access to those drugs. So,
Yes, well, you brought up, of course, the million-dollar question here, and that is, why isn't our medical establishment researching these things? Why aren't they looking into alternative medicines other than the vaccine? Now, I'm not against the vaccine. I've had the vaccine, but and you know, there are questions about its efficacy, let's face it. But nevertheless, should there not be alternatives investigated? We know that back a couple of months ago, Lancet magazine, which is one of the world's most prestigious medical journals, did an article on this drug, the H drug, and that was followed up by one in the New England Journal of Medicine, also an extremely prestigious publication, where they denounced the drug and they claimed that it was not effective and dangerous. And then they had to retract the article. Turned out it had been fake. It was based on this research group that really was phony. I mean, it was like some office somewhere where you had these three people, one of whom apparently was a stripper. They didn't know anything about medicine. And it was an embarrassment. It was a disgrace. But it was kind of dropped off the radar screen that these prestigious publications would run with that. But the point is that even after they withdrew it, the damage had been done. These drugs had been denounced, and research was halted, production was halted, and then all we have is a monopolistic view that this one thing, the vaccine, is the only way. I find that to be troubling. I don't know if the motivation for that might be financial. You know, well, let's face it. You take a look at the stock standing of these three drug companies; it's huge. Or whether or not it might have something to do with, again, I want to be careful here, but what we have called the Great Reset, and you know, an ability to control a particular medical event in a way that favors, let's just say, a particular political agenda. Anyway, thanks a lot for calling.
thank you so much for what you do. I appreciate you so much.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Thanks so much. Okay. We have time for another call, certainly. You're welcome to join the program. Let me just get back to the phone number here to show how inept I am on technicality. I have to reboot to get back to the number. That would be 617-396-4958. You're welcome to join as I wrap up the program for today. This is an open lines program. You can bring up these or any other issues. 617-396-4958. I'm being criticized on TikTok for not discussing the election. I just will say that every time I talk about anything other than the election, all these accusations are flying. Oh, I'm trying to, not at all. I am talking about it, not necessarily on YouTube, but I'm certainly talking about it on TikTok. And I am following stories as they develop. I'm reporting things as they come out. I want to be careful to report things that have weight and meaning, not just any little thing. But believe me, I ain't starting that talk. I'm on that thing big time. I'm not in any way avoiding that. That is still the number one story, in my opinion. But the problem is that my program here is, while I'm on 9 different live streams, TikTok, YouTube is still the kind of the flagship, and YouTube censors. So I have to be very careful. They need to prosecute those responsible for the deceitful study. I couldn't agree more. I don't know. It's interesting that kind of just slipped below the Orwellian, track, kind of went down the Orwellian memory hole. You would think that they would be. I mean, it was like 2 days, they have egg in their face. Oh, this is terrible. And then it kind of goes away. But the effects of it were effective. It stopped the use of a drug that we don't know, but according to many doctors, including the white coat doctors, they are using routinely to save lives, right? Anyway, let me just see. We've got Kyle. Kyle, thanks for joining me.
Hey.
How are you? What's on your mind?
Fine. I'm fine.
Okay. Okay. All right, Kyle. Thanks a lot. There you are. How are you?
I'm fine.
What's on your mind, Kyle?
Huh?
What's on your mind today? Say something. What are you thinking about?
Thinking about a lot of stuff because this is my first time going live on TikTok.
Oh, good. Well, welcome aboard.
Yeah.
I hope you build an audience. I'll follow you. That's great. I encourage it. You know, it's a great chance to be heard. What are you up to? You getting ready to go to school in the fall? What are you thinking about?
Can you repeat that real quick? I'm here.
I like the music in the background.
Oh, my cousin is watching the TV.
Okay. What is it? I see it looks like a game, or is it Spider-Man?
This is watching a parkour thing.
Okay. Where are you from?
I'm from Queens.
Okay, good. Well, listen, I want to thank you for joining me. Have a good one.
You too.
All right, take care. All right, I think that pretty much wraps it up for today. I want to thank you all for joining me this afternoon. I don't have a copy. Let me just step aside for 2 seconds here. Thank you, only because the program is self-sponsored. I don't have sponsors other than my own books. I'm the author of probably about 17, 18 nonfiction books. And you're certainly welcome to check them out. They're all still available at Amazon Books and at Barnes & Noble Books. My most recent book is The Satanic Conspiracy. Let me hold it up for the camera. Check this out. The Satanic Conspiracy. There it is for TikTok. And that is available at Amazon Books. I think it's only about $3, so it's not super expensive. And check it out. You know, go to Amazon Books, put my name in the server, Charles Moscowitz, and it will come up. So I've got interesting guests coming up. I want to thank you all for joining me this afternoon. Charles Moscowitz, Monday through Friday, 12 noon, Eastern Standard Time. God bless you all, and God bless this great country.